Hi there, I'm Josh Hoffman. Welcome to this exclusive video training brought to you by Epic Freelancing. And now I'm going to share with you 10 freelance lessons that amount to $570,000. So this is me and my two sisters, Alyssa on the left, Liza on the right, and we were all born and raised in Los Angeles, California. And growing up, our parents used to tell us, choose a job you love and you'll never have to work a day in your life. So for me, back then, I loved sports and I loved writing and talking about sports. So I put those two things together and I decided to pursue a sports journalism career. And so I attended San Diego State University and I studied journalism and I worked in all sorts of different aspects of sports journalism. I worked TV, radio, magazines, newspapers, online, you name it. And ultimately, in my final semester at San Diego State University back in 2012, I got a job as an assistant producer for NBC San Diego, which was pretty glamorous at the time. I worked there for 6 months, and as soon as I graduated from San Diego State University in May 2012, I decided that this job and even this profession in sports media was not really for me. I felt suffocated by the corporate structure. I didn't feel like I could really unleash my creative spirit. And so I did what most 23-year-old male recent graduates probably wouldn't do. I quit my job at San Diego, NBC San Diego. I had left San Diego and I moved back home to my mom's house without a job, without any income. And so of course, I also had $25,000 in student debt, by the way. I needed to get a job. And yet I didn't really know what I wanted to do. Did I want to stay in sports journalism? Did I want to do something else? So in the meantime, I decided to contact a restaurant that I used to deliver for in high school called Brent's Deli. And I said, hey, I'm back in Los Angeles, living at my mom's house down the street from you guys. I'm looking for a real job, but in the meantime, can I come and at least make some money driving again, delivering food for you guys? And they said, yeah, no problem. When you're back in Los Angeles, come and we'll definitely get squared away. So in between me leaving San Diego and moving back to LA and starting at Brent's Deli, I actually went to their website and I found that they had a bunch of social media icons in their top right corner of their website. And I said, that's interesting. So I clicked on their Facebook page and Instagram, et cetera, et cetera. And I noticed that even though they were presenting their social media on their website, they weren't actually really doing anything with the social media. And so I thought, and I said, wait, I don't know anything about social media marketing, but I know how to create content because that's the crux of journalism. And I know how to tell a pretty good story and write articles and blog posts. So why don't I actually help them with that kind of stuff instead of just being a delivery guy? So I emailed them and I said, hey, I noticed you kind of have social media, but you're not really using it. Can I help you with that instead? And they said, yeah, come back to LA. We'll talk about it. Long story short, they agreed and they actually hired me as their social media marketing manager, paying me about $15 an hour, which really is nothing, but it's better than nothing. And so the first lesson I learned in this moment is not to underestimate your current skills. Do not underestimate your current skills because we all have a certain amount of skills, some more than others, but you have skills and you can definitely transfer those skills into providing services for clients just like I did with my journalism skills. And so don't be afraid that even if your skills are not the most profound skills in the world, don't be afraid to use your current skills to offer services to clients. So what ended up happening is I started to develop a portfolio on social media marketing. I also started to get a lot of good word of mouth activity from Brent's Deli, from some other clients that I got. And within about 6 months of starting as the social media marketing manager at Brent's Deli and getting another few clients, I had about 6 clients making $3,000 a month, which for a 23-year-old recent college graduate, not that bad. After 6 months of running my freelance business and working with about 6 different clients, I took a free trip to Israel. And what I found, which is what I didn't expect, is that I fell in love with Tel Aviv, which is what you see here. Tel Aviv is the second biggest city in Israel. It's right on the beach on the Mediterranean Sea. It's beautiful. It's great. The people, the food, the atmosphere. And so instead of returning back after this free 10-day trip to Israel, returning back to Los Angeles where I was living with my mom, I said, you know what? I want to stay here in Tel Aviv. I want to create a new chapter of my life here in Tel Aviv. Because up to this point, my entire life was in Southern California. Born and raised in Los Angeles, went to San Diego State University. Now, don't get me wrong. Growing up and living in Southern California is not a bad place to be. But when you're young and your whole life for about 23 years has been in one place, I wanted to really spread my wings. What I didn't realize at the time is that by spreading my wings and by actually staying and moving and now living in Tel Aviv, in a new country, all by myself, totally away from my family, my friends, my entire social circle, and what I've known for the first 23 years of my life, my freelance services exponentially got better. My confidence grew because I was in a completely new place with a new culture and a new language. And by being uncomfortable, I experienced exponential growth. Because the moment you become uncomfortable is the moment you start to grow. And that doesn't mean that you have to go and move halfway across the world like I did from Los Angeles to Tel Aviv. It just means that you have to understand that right now you're probably comfortable in a different way in your life. And if you can get yourself out of that comfort zone, that's when you're going to ultimately take the next step, and a big next step, not just a small next step. And so what ended up happening is because my freelance services got better, because my confidence grew, and because I was able to grow based on being uncomfortable, I started working with bigger and better clients like the U.S. Embassy in Tel Aviv, SodaStream, W Hotels, Life Kitchen Restaurants, Milan Design Week, etc., etc. And when you look at these types of clients, you might think to yourself, wow, that's pretty impressive, Josh. You moved halfway across the world, you're working with big clients, you're doing your thing, that's awesome. Well, not exactly, because even though I was working with bigger and better clients, I wasn't really making that much more money. I was only able to command $20, $25, $30, maybe $35 an hour from even clients like this because I was relying only on word of mouth. And so in reality, behind the scenes, I was really feeling like a turtle on its shell because I was working with bigger and better clients, but I wasn't making bigger and better money. And I couldn't understand why for so long until one day I realized that word of mouth on its own is not a marketing strategy. Word of mouth on its own is not a marketing strategy. And when I say marketing strategy, marketing is simply how do you make the kind of money you want to make from the clients that you want to work with. So I was working with great clients, but I wasn't making the kind of money that I wanted to make per hour and in total. And so what made me realize that word of mouth on its own is not a marketing strategy is because one day I was in a sunglasses shop in Tel Aviv and I was talking to the owner and I said, wow, this is a great sunglasses shop. How many locations do you have? And she said to me, actually, this is our only physical location, but we also sell online. And the next thing she said to me totally changed the way that I think about my freelance business. She said, act local, think global. Act local, think global. And so I went home that day and I thought about how can I apply this sort of approach of act local and think global to my own freelance business. And then it dawned on me that because I was not able to ultimately charge the kind of rates and make the kind of money that I wanted to make, I was not able to do that because I wasn't being proactive. This right here is the epitome of being proactive. Act local, think global. And so what I realized is that people of accomplishment, they don't sit back and let things happen to them. They go out and they happen to things. They are proactive in their approach of starting and growing, in this case, a freelance business. And so for me, what does that look like? And for other freelancers, what can that look like? Well, first, with acting local, you can attend networking events. You can host your own lectures. You can join local Facebook and LinkedIn groups, speak at events and conferences in your local area. Apply what I call the networking of life, which is simply every day connecting and speaking with people who you potentially can work with and continuing that relationship online by adding them on LinkedIn, getting their email, etc., etc. Join a co-working space. These are all things that you can do in your local community to raise your profile according to the type of freelancer that you are, that you want to be. And on the flip side, thinking global. Thinking global, by the way, does not mean that it's all 7 continents, worldwide domination. It simply means, how do you approach and connect with people who are not in your immediate geographic area? People that you otherwise wouldn't come into contact with, but because of the great reach and potential of the internet, you can come into contact with them and you can maintain and build a relationship with them at scale because of the power of the internet. So that might mean email marketing, social media marketing. I mentioned LinkedIn just a few minutes ago, content marketing, blogging, guest blogging, affiliate marketing. These are all examples and things that I've done to quote unquote think global. And so after I started to implement this whole concept of act local and think global, I experienced a ton of great results. I doubled my monthly income in just 4 months. I doubled my hourly rate. I moved from a place of having to say yes to all potential clients that wanted to work with me to a place where I could actually pick and choose the clients that I want to work with. The clients that want to pay me what I want to charge, the clients that I actually enjoy working with because I like their products and services, the clients that give me creative freedom to do what I do best as a freelancer. And I even had clients waiting in line because I didn't have enough time in the day to service all the different clients that now wanted to work with me based on my act local, think global approach. And lastly, I hired my first full-time employee as well as 2 other freelancers because I had such a surge in business that I personally couldn't accommodate on my own. And so ultimately, I felt like I was on top of the world. And then it all came crumbling down. Because even though I was making all this money, working with all these great clients, having people now work for me to help me accommodate all these great clients, I thought that I could actually run a sprint, when in reality, running a business and growing a business over time is truly a marathon. And so I started to reinvest all this money into my business, and I got an office, and I did all these different things. And I did it too fast because I was trying to go too fast. And so as fast as I grew to this great level based on Act Local, Think Global, of money and prestige and clients, I came falling down. And within 70 days, literally 70 days of going to that all-time high, at least at that point in my life, I lost 70%, 70, of my income because I tried to run a sprint instead of understanding that running a business is a marathon. And that's when I realized that after I had lost basically all but 1 client, lost 70% of my income, the full-time employee that I hired quit on me because she couldn't take the pressure and everything that came with this entire episode of my life. I realized that if you want to manage and grow a successful business over the long run, you have to reinvent yourself, you have to reinvent your services, and you have to reinvent your vision. And so what I did was I actually looked myself in the mirror and I said, Josh, what are you good at? What are you not so good at? What do you like doing? And what do you not like doing? Otherwise known as what I call a self-awareness inventory. And the first step to being self-aware is ultimately to become aware of your own BS. To become aware of your own BS. To understand that you're not good at everything. And instead of focusing on the things that you're not good at and the things that annoy you, otherwise known as weaknesses and pains, what I believe is that everyone should focus only on the combination of their strengths, the things they're good at, and their passions, the things that they like and enjoy. Because masters, people who are really, really, really good at what they do, and who really enjoy what they do, they don't do 4,000 things. They actually just do a few things 4,000 times. And so back then, when I was doing the whole act local, think global thing, and I'm still doing it today, by the way, but when I was trying to build this huge business and hiring people and this, that, and the other, I was offering all these different digital marketing services. Why? Because I thought the more services that I can provide, the more money I can make. Money was my guiding light. And then after I crashed and burned and I went through my depression and all that bad stuff, and I ultimately did my self-awareness inventory of focusing on my strengths and my passions and not worrying about my weaknesses and my pains in terms of totally discarding them and not even factoring them into the equation. Now I just do a few things that I enjoy and that I'm good at, my strengths and my passions. High-level digital marketing strategy with a focus on content marketing and social media. And so again, the results very impressive. Again, I increased my hourly rate by 45%. Now I only do what I want to do, what I enjoy doing, what I'm good at, versus what I need to do. I have more time to enjoy my hobbies and my passion projects, and most importantly, I've never been happier in my freelance business. Because what I ultimately realized is that success is not about the money. I mean, money can be a motivation, but it shouldn't be the motivation. Success instead is about doing what you want, where you want, when you want, and with whom you want as much as you want. So what does that mean for a freelancer? Doing what you want, the services that you provide and that you don't provide. I went from providing all these services not because I wanted to, but because I wanted to ultimately make all this money that didn't really make me happier. Where you want to live, where you want to work, when you want. Do you want to work in the morning? Do you want to work in the evening? Do you want to work only 3 days a week, on the weekends, not on the weekends? Do you want to have a 3-day weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday off? And with whom you want, the clients and the projects that you want to work with and on. And then, of course, doing all these things as much as you want. Do you want to work 30 hours a week like I do? Do you want to work 40, 50, 15? That is success when you can ultimately call all of these shots. And so what ultimately inspired me to launch Epic Freelancing was understanding that the truly most successful freelancers have 3 things in common: financial success, creative freedom, and lifestyle design. Financial success, creative freedom, and lifestyle design. Controlling your time, your workload, and your income, choosing where, how, when, and with whom you want to work, and architecting a lifestyle that you want to live on a day-to-day basis. Financial success, creative freedom, and lifestyle design. Now, if you read between the lines, you'll notice that there's one common denominator between these 3 pillars of Epic Freelancing. Time. Time. Because ultimately, time is your most valuable asset as a freelancer. Why? Because since services take time to provide, you're actually really selling your time. And if you're really selling your time, then you have to understand the supply and demand of your time. And you have to understand that in order to raise your rates and to make more money and to work with bigger and better clients, to raise your profile, your personal brand as a freelancer, and to ultimately obtain this definition of success, you have to maximize your time investment. The time that you give to your clients, the time that you use to market yourself and build your personal brand, the time that you use to implement the strategy of acting local and thinking global. Time is your most valuable asset, and everything you do in your freelance business has to be seen through that lens, the lens of time. Now, all these lessons that I just shared with you, it didn't happen overnight. I've been doing this since 2012. But the most important lesson I can provide to you is the simple lesson that failure is just feedback. Failure is just a way of saying, hey, you did it wrong. Here's how you can do it right. Here's how you can move forward and get better. In fact, let's think about it as if we were kids, if we were a toddler learning to walk. When a child starts learning to walk, and they fall all the time, right? They fall 50, 100, 200, 500 times as they're learning how to walk. A child never says to themselves, maybe this just isn't for me. They never say to themselves, maybe this just isn't for me. They get back up, they dust themselves off, and they keep walking. And eventually they learn how to walk, and then they learn how to run, and then they learn how to ride a bike and to swim, etc., etc. And that is the true evolution as well of a freelancer. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to fail. But every time you fail, you're just receiving a piece of feedback that will make you better the next time and the next time and the next time, until you get to a point of true success. Until you get to a point of true success. Because ultimately, the person who fails the most wins. The person who fails the most wins. And so don't be afraid to get started because you don't know where to start or how to start, or that you're going to fail, that you're not good enough, that you don't have enough experience, that your skills aren't strong enough. Get out there, whether you're thinking about starting a freelance business or you're trying to take your current one to the next level, and start doing. Start making mistakes. Start failing, because the more you fail, the more you win.